we're into the middle of November almost here, so it's time to start thinking about if you're going to get bees next year, where you're going to get your equipment and where you're going to get your bees. My suggestion is to get local bees. They seem to do a lot better. We have a couple of pretty good suppliers. One that's just coming on the line this year, I think, and I'm going to do some more investigating on him, and I'll let you know what his deal is on it. He's an Amish fellow, so he'll be by U.S. mail only, probably. I'm not for sure on that. He could have a cell phone, but I'll find out. He's up around Paoli. Got a good bee operation going from what I've seen, and I'm supposed to get back in touch with him about that. Of course, we have Jake Osborne over in Osville, or in Owensboro. You'll have to check with him. You can always find him on Facebook. Just look up Jake Osborne, and from there, I think you can go to his bee site, or you can start communicating with him right there. I'd communicate with him early. Last year, he sold out of bees early. I mean, probably before the first year, he was sold out. He raises a lot of bees. He overwinters bees in Florida, but he raises the bees here in Kentucky, northern Kentucky, just across the river here. So he's got local bees. It's what I would call local bees, and he seems to have a pretty good program on him. Anybody that sells very many bees like he does, once in a while you're going to have a nuke that don't do well, just because that's the way bees are. And he stands behind them as far as I know. I don't know if the store down at Newburgh where they're getting their bees at this coming year, but they should have some nukes also. The thing about keeping bees is it stays interesting all the time. You never run out of things that you can build up on and learning all the time. There's always something to figure out about bees. Probably one of the hardest things to do for a beginner is to keep the bees alive the first year. I've seen some guys that started last spring. Got some great looking bees right now, and I wish them good luck. I think they'll make it through the winter. Right now, if you have hives and they're light, you need to be feeding on them. We'll go through some feed stuff here in a little while. I hope everybody's got their mites under control. If you haven't by now, it's probably too late. You may get lucky and make it through, but three of the things that you need to come up with and get and learn is to keep your bees going is to keep your Varroa mites under control. It's not the mites that kill the bees as much as what it is the diseases they spread through your hives. So if you keep the Varroa under control before they go into winter and you have healthy bees, you've got a lot better chance of them surviving the winter. Some bees will survive without having that under control, but you won't keep bees very many years in a row without treating some way. Try to pick out a treatment that you're comfortable with. There's a lot of different things out there anymore. There's a lot of things that are not working very well. Some new things coming on constantly. So be sure and get acquainted with that. If you can get your mite count down in September, last of August, 1st of September, then your bees will be healthy when they start raising what we call winter bees. Winter bees are actually a unique insect that are completely different than your summer bees. Your summer bees just have to live about 6-7 weeks, and then their life cycle is gone, and the queen is raising more bees to replace them. Your winter bees have to have a healthy fat layer that sustains them through 4 to 5 months of living in the wintertime. So there's a lot of difference in these two bees. That once you get the mites off your bees and get your parent bees, what we call the parent bees, the queen and them healthy in September, what they lay, the eggs they lay and the young ones they raise from there on out will be winter bees, which are fat bees. So that if you can get a good population of fat bees, they can stand the cold a lot better. They can live so much longer, and you'll come out in the spring with a healthy hive that's ready to produce more young bees in early spring and get going. We're getting into fall, late fall here, and it's the bees are still real active. There's not much left for them. The last freeze pretty well done in all the flowers and stuff, but the bees are still doing a lot of flying, which means they're exerting a lot of energy, but probably not bringing in very much. Robbing at this time of the year is real bad. If you haven't got your mouse guards on, your entrance reduced, get it down so you don't have one of your other hives or some wild bees around close gang up on your hive, and they'll take a hive down a little bit in no time once they get where they can get in there, and they start making the hive a little weaker. Another thing you need to learn is queen events. Now, queen events, there's several of them. One of them that you'll learn real quick is swarming. When your hive swarms in the spring, which we try to work away from that, but that's just the nature of bees. They're going to swarm unless you do some intensive work with the hive to keep them out of that swarming mode. When they do swarm, if you can catch them, it's great. You always need in the spring. You always need an extra hive or more than that, because you're going to have some swarms around your bee yard. Even if you just got one hive, you need to have another hive ready come spring of the year, come 1st of March. You need to have this ready, and you have your frames ready, and have this box where it's handy. Once people find out you have bees, your phone will ring and they'll say, we got all these bees that are in our yard and they're going to kill everybody in the neighborhood. Come and get them. So you can put on your coat and go get them and be a hero in the neighborhood and got a whole box of free bees. And usually your swarms like that are pretty healthy bees. I like to treat mine for mites as soon as I get them back home, within a week after I get them back home. Because if they were wild bees, if they come out of a crevice in a house or a bee tree, they probably have a load of mites. So you need to get them off there first thing. And this is when you want to have your new comb ready to put in with them. They will draw that comb real fast, and you feed them. We'll get into that in the feeding section here. Another queen event is superseding. Usually later on in the summer is when you find bees superseding, which means that the queen that's been in there all spring and summer is run out of sperm or for some reason is not taking care of the hive the way the other bees think she should. She's not laying right. She may have been injured. There's several things that can happen to a queen. When you pull a frame in and out, you may have rolled her a little bit and injured her, but I've seen them take care of some pretty rough looking queens. I had one last summer. I had a leg missing and a wing not in very good shape. Probably some mistake I'd made getting in and out of the hive. But I've seen them put up with her pretty good well. But when the bees think that she's not laying right and not taking care of the hive right and not healthy, they will supersede her, which means that they will raise a queen, start queen cups and cells up on the middle of the frame. And when they do that, then after they get a queen about ready to go, they will kill the old queen and take her out of the hive. And then they'll give them a young, healthy queen. Now, with your swarms and with your superseed, these new queens that are raised, when the swarm goes out, the old queen normally goes with that swarm. So the hive's got to raise a new queen. This is pretty work intensive for the whole hive once these events start happening. So they've got to raise this queen, and after she's hatched and is 3 or 4 or 5 days old, her body hardens up, and she'll get her wing muscles in good shape. She'll fly out for her maiden flight. Now this sounds pretty simple, but I mean, she goes out and breeds with all the drones around in the local vicinity. Sometimes she'll go as far as 2 miles. A lot of beekeepers claim they won't breed within 2 miles of the hive because they don't want to be interbred. That's all a lot of speculation, which they probably have studied a lot more than what I've messed with and what I've read on it. While she's out, there's several things that can happen that she wouldn't get back to the hive. I can't raise queen bees at my house because I've got a lot of martins and a lot of birds around there. We feed a lot of birds, and so we've got a pretty good population of birds in our yard and around the house. So anytime I let a hive try to requeen there at the house, it just don't work. I've got to move them a couple miles away up in the forest ground from a good friend of mine, and set all my boxes up there where I want to raise queens, and they come back probably 95% of the time there, which at the house I probably can get a 5% raise. So anyway, when that happens, if a queen is out to get bred, time she gets back to the box, or if she don't make it back to the box, all this brood that's left in the box is too old for the bees to raise another queen out of. So this makes the bees hopelessly queenless, which is a bad situation because they don't have any way to raise a queen. If you let this go on too long, you get into laying workers and just a lot of big headaches. So you need to recognize this in your queen programs. You need to recognize when a hive is queenless, or when they've superseded and not got a queen back. There's a few things that you'll learn about a hive. They'll be aggressive. They'll be loud. When you walk by the hive, you'll be able to hear them. When they get in this situation, you need to get in there and see what's going on. If all the brood's about hatched and there's no queen cells, and you don't see a new queen. New queens are hard to see. They're smaller. They're faster on the comb. They don't just float around like the old queens do. They'll move a lot faster. But you need to get in there and see what you can figure out, or ask for help and figure out what's going on, and see if you need to order a queen, or if you need to put some fresh eggs in there. If you've got another hive, you can add fresh eggs. You can add fresh eggs anytime you want to, and see if they draw out a queen cell. If they draw out a queen cell, you'll know for sure that they was queenless. If they don't draw out a queen cell, they're probably not queenless. The queen is probably in there and just not started laying again. Sometimes, especially during superseded situations, it can take 4 weeks for a queen to get bred and start laying again. So, like I say, another way that you could probably lose a queen is if you're going through a hive for any reason whatsoever, and you've mashed her a little bit or done something, then they'll be raising another queen. And so you got 3 or 4 situations there that can cause you to have a queen problem. Now, I'm not saying don't get in the hive because you're afraid you're going to mash your queen. I think beginners should be in hives a lot. I think they need to get to know these bees, need to know what's going on in there, and kind of solve your curiosity so you don't sit around and worry about them. Go open that hive and take it easy with it. Be real careful with the frames. It takes you a long time to learn to see a queen. A lot of people that I go help say I can't find the queens, but most of the time if I go in there in about the 3rd or 4th frame I can find the queen.
and sometimes I will suggest marking them, but other times I'd rather stay away from marking queens for new beekeepers, because that's one of the things they need to learn to do is identify that queen, identify what she'll look like when she's on a comb. Once you watch queens for a little bit, when you do find your queen, you want to hold that frame and watch her a little bit, especially if she's not nervous. Watch how she walks. Watch how the bees get out of her way. If she'll go to the other side of the frame, turn it over a little bit and watch her over there. Very seldom you'll ever see her lay an egg. I mean, people have pictures of it, and they see them actually laying eggs when there's a queen that's got to be real comfortable with you being there for that to happen. But if you watch a queen walk, when you get into your hive, you'll notice that the bees around her will kind of spread. You hardly ever see bees on top of the queen. They especially after she's been laying for a while. Now, new queens, you can expect anything out of them. I've seen them jump off the frame and back in the box and fly up in the air and make a circle and come back. But most of the time, if a queen flies off, if you don't close the box up, she'll bail right back down in there. It's hard to see her because you got more bees around at that time. But I've seen a queen fly around for 5 minutes and then she makes a different sound flying. It'll take you a while to learn that too. Feeding bees. In the spring, when you catch a swarm, and especially if you got to draw out comb, you got to keep feed on them bees. Even if there's a pretty good nectar flow going, if you keep some thin 1-to-1 sugar water or a little thinner on there, you can get them to draw out comb for a good while. Your comb is really going to be valuable to you, so you need to get all of it drawn you can. If you've got a new hive and when you get around towards fall and all that comb's not drawn out in there, it makes it real hard on the bees in the wintertime to have just foundations in there, because they can't get their heads in there together and their butts sticking out of there to create the heat they need to stay warm. They will freeze to death pretty fast if you don't have them in there. The middle of summer, there'll be a nectar drought. If you don't think that bees are doing very good, you probably need to keep some sugar water on them at that time. If you've already got all your comb drawn out, if you don't have your comb drawn out, keep feeding them. In the early fall, about the time you treat for mites in August, September, you want to be lifting them hives and see how heavy they are. When you get hold of the front of your hive, it should be a real tough lift to get it off the stand just a little bit. I mean, you're not going to raise it up very much. You're just going to see what it feels like. If it comes up pretty easy, you need to get to putting the feed on them. I never suggest feeding on the outside of the hive like the deals that they say in the bee books where you put the Boardman feeders in the front. You're just asking for trouble when you do that. You always want to put your feed on top of your frames inside the hive and put an empty box over it. Just so the bees in the hive get the sugar water. Before you put it in there, make sure you vapor lock it good. Put your feeding cap on there, turn it upside down, give it a couple of good hard shakes, and then set it over in the hive. Put your boxes all back on there. Check them pretty often. So they'll go through a quart of water pretty fast if you have a big hive that's coming on pretty fast. Another reason you should feed, if you want the queen to start laying, you can make a hive believe that there's nectar coming in early in the spring. If you want the queen to start laying earlier than what you think she is getting to it, you can start feeding a thin 1-to-1 sugar water. Kind of imitates the nectar when they think there's nectar coming in, and if they've got some pollen, you can feed some pollen patties at that time. They will think that spring is sprung and they need to get to building up. this is something that you're going to have to try to figure out yourself too, because if you put them in this mold too early and you've not got enough bees in there, when they get a lot of brood, they've got to keep that brood covered. And if it drops down cold on you like it did last spring, your brood will chill, or you'll have bees that chill one way or the other, and you lose more than what you've gained. So you've got to kind of figure out if it's going to stay warm, kind of watch your trees and stuff, and your calendar, and see if it looks like that you're ready for a big batch of bees. You need to have a good population of bees by the time the normal nectar flow starts, or pretty soon after that. That's when bees normally build up, so when the nectar starts. Well, in southern Indiana, it really puts a bend in our calendar there, because about the time it starts getting warm enough for the bees to start building up good, our nectar flows on, and the big part of the nectar flow comes before the bees get ready for it. It's you get north, they don't work out like that. Their bees are built up by the time the nectar flow comes in, and their bees will make a lot more honey, and even just in the northern edge of Indiana, and they can gather better. But in south of here, of course, there's not that bad of winters, and they do pretty good on our nectar flow. But around here, it seems like by the time your bees get started, the nectar flow is there right on top of them, and it's just hard to get it figured out where we can get a good nectar flow around here. Another reason to feed, if you're introducing a queen. Now, if you have queen problems and you don't have eggs and stuff to put in your hive farm or start another hive, you have to buy a queen, or borrow a queen, or bag a queen from another beekeeper. When you do that, when you're introducing that queen, they'll be in some kind of queen cages, so the bees in the hive can't get to them. At that time, I like to put some feed in there, so that the bees got something to do, and they're fed good, and it'll make them accept your queen easier. In my opinion, the whole hive is a lot more satisfied. So after 2 or 3 days, they'll know the smell of this queen you've got in this cage, and you can either turn her loose or let them turn her loose if you got a candy plug in there. At this time of year, you can either you probably started in the middle of September, or the middle of October, I should say. 1st of October, middle of October. You got to get your feed jars off there that's got the 2-to-1 sugar water, or whatever you've been feeding them in the fall, and go to what we call a slush bag. Think about the 4 pounds of sugar in a Ziploc bag, about a 3/4 of a cup of. I mix mine with a little bit of honey, that's why it's brown. That's just water, honey, and a couple teaspoons full of vinegar. I didn't bring a recipe with me. I think Sarah has some that she'll post out at the end of this thing. I pour this in this bag and just start working it around until you get your moisture all the way to it. I use the same board that I used for my winter feed. I just lay that sugar bag in there, take a razor blade and do about 4 or 5 cuts, and put the hive back together. The bees will find that, they'll get in it. Every time you look in there, there'll be a bunch of bees inside of this. You can check it. The guy told me the other day that his bees already went through 2 or 3 of them, that he was kind of helping along in the fall. When you get ready to make your sugar boards, this is the same setup we used for this. You take, I think that's about a 1/2 pound of pollen patty. Put that right in the middle there. You can mix your candy for this About the same way you do these mush bags, only a little drier. You put this in there, and then you mix your sugar and just put that right down on top there. Don't pat it down, just leave it loose. These are made with these boards are set down in 3/8 of an inch. The bees will come up through here and get on top of that candy absorbent, or they'll come up from the bottom and eat through the screen. And you can, as the winter goes on, and you can check these on a warm day. Just open the lid up real easy and raise up your inner cover, and you can see how much is left. If you need to redo these, you can make some little squares in little plastic containers or anything you can make it in, and just raise it up and drop them in there. You can add pollen if you got some more pollen patties left. They sell these pollen patties in pound in cinnamons, flattened out when you buy them at the bee stores. So I just cut them in half and put a half pound in here. Save the other half. If I have to put some more in later, you can either lay your pollen patty here or shove it in with your candy. Ants is a big problem in the hives. Probably not too bad in the fall, but they're always a problem for me. It seems like in different areas until you finally get a hit of them. It's the time of year for cinnamon sticks. They're easy to pick up right now. It's a good time to pick you up a couple packages of them. They're not very high, $4.40 for that many of them. You take them cinnamon sticks and you put them in a small jar and cover them with 90% alcohol. Just leave them set for 4 or 5 weeks. Put them on your bee table or wherever where you can go by and just give them a shake once in a while. Once they've been set for 4 or 6 weeks, you take your liquid that's there and pour it in your spray bottle. Add about another cup of water to it. And if you got bees around or ants around your beehives, spray around the bottom of it. If they get up on the lid, spray under your lid real well. This works a lot better than cinnamon powder. Cinnamon powder just don't stay long. It won't last that long. And like I say, I'll try to come up with a couple more people that sell bees. And Sarah's going to get you a recipe, and so good luck to your bees this winter. You can put questions on our Perry County, Indiana beekeeping page, and we'll try to get around to answering them. And good luck to your bees.